one of the things we talked about before this when we were swapping notes back and forth before the call is the experience with AI is becoming a board level metric. The board wants to see it. So there's some gray-haired board member sitting out there. What should they be looking for in a CXO candidate? Maybe they're reviewing the next, I mean, it could be finance, we're talking about marketing, but what should they be looking at for AI experience for someone to come up to the C-suite?
Yeah, well, I just did a LinkedIn Live with Roger Martin this week on OKRs, right? And kind of KPIs and the danger in the trap of without a KPI or OKR that that's not a real strategy, right? And you can't measure what you can't manage. And if you've ever heard Roger, that's a very truncated sentence that gets tossed around a lot, which was part of a much larger statement that was said in that by Drucker. So, ultimately, you want to make sure that you don't get caught in the what's the metric, what's the expense. It's more of the how do we reimagine what we're doing now? Where can we look at it almost like you're a software leader and you want to launch an MVP product? You don't put it into full production day one. Like you put it in a sandbox, you test it, you shoot holes in it, you find a set of customers, right? You go out and figure out, is this really what they want? You pull them into the design journey of that product. You get feedback through customer advisory boards or partner advisory boards or whatever the case might be. Think the same way about agentic. And so is there a team within the organization that is going to say, look, we are going to, as a cross-functional part of this organization, we're going to take someone from sales, someone from marketing, finance, HR, products, whatever it is, say we're going to stand up this agentic team. And I'll just give you an example. I was working with a client down in Brisbane, Australia. It was in my book, Experience Mindset. And we literally took a wall and we journey mapped the customer. And this was, 10, maybe 9 years ago. So very much ahead of the agentic conversation, if you will. And all we did was we mapped out every step the customer had and then every step that the employee had to match what the customer had so that we could see all the things employees had to do and then all the things the customers had to do. And how could we, at the time it was Salesforce, how could we use the technology to collapse that time frame, improve the experience, et cetera. And by just mapping that out and asking for everyone to input within their own role control, sure enough, we took something that was like 14 months down to like 4 weeks. Significant improvement, and like no awards, and no one ever wanted to deal with this company. It was part of the government, so very bureaucratic and lots of red tape and regulations. And they have won tons of awards now of being one of the best experiences in government because they really took that sort of product-centric, customer-centric view approach and pulled everyone in versus saying it has to come from the top down. As you mentioned with students, your employees are using it today. The trick here is to harness what they're doing, making sure it fits within rules and you're not breaking trust and you're not sharing NDA or IP or any of those things that you don't want to do for obvious reasons. And how do you maximize that? So I would say, there is no one out there, just like with cloud, that has 10 years of agentic AI experience. They don't exist. Right. So you have to either say, we're going to find someone within that is just going to immerse themselves in where and how we can use agentic, who's doing what technologies do we own? If it's Microsoft, if it's ServiceNow, if it's Salesforce, if it's IBM, if it's, everybody has a story now. So what do we currently have the ability to do within the current acquisitions and technology we already have in place? How do we turn those on? Where do we use it? How do we use it? And how does it impact what we're doing? If you don't have that kind of beginner's mind and it's very fixed, like, okay, this is absolutely only about cost cutting, or it's only about reducing headcount, or it's only about improving one piece of the business, then those might not be the right leaders to take you to the future, right? Once again, like cloud, we still have this conversation on-prem or off-prem. Yep. In some small businesses, some 15 years later, they're still making a first-time leap. During COVID, many small businesses, it was their first time online. Right. So it's not, technology is even, usage and access is not.
So this brings up an interesting thing to me, and I've been thinking about this a lot because I love the idea of being able to set up enough of the prompts, enough of the designs to get an agent to say go. How do we supervise the agent? in the go-to-market? What should be the audit trail or the tracking? Like if I, and I'll go back to that first touch or early touches. If I dial up an agent who's going to go scrape through LinkedIn, websites, industry reports, we fed it our ICP, we fed it a few, this is what we think we can do, and it's sending out messages. And they should be adjusting the messages and personalizing them. How do we, how can we keep an eye on it? What should we be doing to, because we don't want to slow it down. We know what we're up against. Because you talk about that, we talked about that a little bit with humans in strategic control, but sooner or later you have to dip into the tactical side. How do we maintain control of our agents?
Yeah, there was a great study that Microsoft just put out. Actually, their Work Index report came out a few weeks ago. Work Index 2025 by Microsoft, and they really actually introduced this term, kind of like agent boss. Like if you're a boss of agents, maybe
Mhm.
not humans. Like you might be running a after-hour call center as a human, but the after-hour agents are not human, but you are responsible from between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. to run the call center. There just may be a couple of humans and a lot of agents. And so you are an agent boss. Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they responsive? Are they
Mhm.
following the process? Are they uncovering anything? Is the workflows working? Like you are an agent boss. And we went back and forth. I was part of the sort of research team on that from an outside perspective. And we went back and forth on the term. I was like, I don't know if I like, boss. Anyway, but agent boss is where they landed. And then actually having organizational structures like what I just sort of teased out, where, I'm Tiffani Bova and I have 7 humans who work for me, and I have 5 agents. And they're very
Mhm.
clear agents. It's not that each human has an agent, it's agents that support those humans in very specific tasks and processes. And so collectively, I have this team, and maybe those agents give me 3x human capacity than I would have if I didn't have the humans. So, should they be on my org chart? Should they be counted as digital labor?
Right.
I mean, like these are the really compelling questions. And if you're listening to this going, oh my goodness, like, like how am I going to have a team meeting with my humans and my agents? Like, it gets fun a little bit, it's a great cocktail conversation. But the reality is that these are real questions, because you don't want tens of thousands of agents running around your organization, just like you wouldn't want 10,000 employees running around your agent organization with no oversight and no management and no rules and no all that. You have to think the same way, because if they're just running around aimlessly, they can do more damage than good. I realize humans have to direct. I understand. But you also don't know what some human has introduced, some agent that you're not aware of, similar to shadow IT back in the day. Now, are we going to have shadow agents? Which not are we? We are.
We
And
are.
so, how
Yeah.
do you manage those shadow agents, and how do you corral it where you really do view it as part of your organizational structure?